Welcome to the MicroLife Café. I'm your host, Sarah from MicroLife Fertilizers. We're talking all things organic horticulture and beyond, so pull up a chair and pour up a cup with us. On today's episode, we're getting into the real day-to-day of farm management, the certifications behind the work, and what the future of farming looks like. We appreciate you joining us for another episode at the MicroLife Café. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming today. Can you share with us what you do for a living?
Yeah, I'm Sarah Yashinskie. I'm the Director of Farm Operations for Blackwood Land Institute.
So you have a degree in health and exercise science. How did that make you want to get involved with farming?
Yeah, so I think health and exercise science was my gateway into, thinking about the human body and what food can do for our health. And when I graduated, my goal was to do Peace Corps. But after thinking more about it, I went into AmeriCorps, and my position within AmeriCorps for my year of service was a community garden in Beaumont. And that was what really led me into farming. I started volunteering at different farms to figure out how to grow in Texas because I was not originally from Texas, and learning the ins and outs of agriculture in such a unique space. So from there, I got a job on a farm, and the rest is history.
That's beautiful. And can you share with the class where you are from?
Yeah, I'm from Maryland, Northeast Maryland to be exact.
Hilarious story. Sarah and I are both from the Northeast, and we both played lacrosse in college and somehow both ended up in Houston, Texas, of all places.
Transplants.
Okay, so back to farming. What all do you guys grow on your farm, and how do you distribute it?
Yeah, we grow a lot of different things. I like to refer to us sort of as like a market garden because we grow a little bit of a lot. So right now we've got lettuce, beets, radishes, turnips, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. We still have some eggplant growing from the summer, but we'll see what that looks like when we get back to the farm after this. Yeah, so we'd grow really a lot of everything.
And how do you guys distribute that? Do you do farmers markets? Do you have any boxes? Do you go to any of the restaurants?
Yes, and yes. So we are at Urban Harvest Farmers Market on Saturdays. We're about to start Tomball Farmers Market as well. We offer some CSAs occasionally. They're usually shorter CSAs than your typical full season ones, but that's an offering that we've started doing more recently. And then, I distribute to some restaurants as well. Less so of that because we have a caterer on site that ends up taking a lot of our produce to use for value-added products, or we have on-farm events that he'll use produce for too.
Can you tell me a little bit about what a value-added product is?
Yeah, so for us, our value-added products are our salad dressings. We have juices sometimes. We'll do elderberry syrups. So it's just anything that's coming off of the farm that we're packaging into something else.
That makes a lot of sense. So what products do you use when you're farming?
We use MicroLife products, 10 out of 10.
Oh, thank you. I had no idea.
We will occasionally buy in compost from Nature's Way Resources. We will use a few other things. We make compost tea, so that's molasses, fish emulsion, using compost, finished compost. So we'll use products like that, but we really try to keep a pretty closed loop system, so not having too many outside inputs.
Okay, cool. So how would you define a successful growing season?
I think for Blackwood, because we are a nonprofit farm, I think us having a face in the community is huge, connecting with new customers, and then expanding customers' opinions on unique vegetables, opening their minds to new things. For us, it's not always about the bottom line of producing more and more produce. It's a lot of connecting with the community. It's getting people onto the farm to experience agriculture and experience like this nature that's so beautiful that a lot of us are disconnected from.
What is one belief you had early on about farming that has evolved over time?
I used to think farming was very repetitive, and to some extent I still do, but in reality, every day offers a new challenge that you have to adapt and grow through. And the routine of the year might be the same, but every day is very different. And I always used to think that farming was just so repetitive, the same thing every day. But I think I've expanded my opinion on that.
And you mean every day is different by you're solving new problems
Yeah.
or you're starting to come up with new ideas or?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Definitely. I mean, we have to adapt to new climate, new weather challenges, and then, yeah, new ideas come from those adaptations.
Absolutely. So you talked a little bit about involving and getting the community engaged. And I was just curious, what kind of events do you guys have on the farm and what are other ways that you engage with the community?
Yeah, so we have a ton of events that go on at the farm. Agritourism Day is every Saturday from 12 to 4. We have volunteer days on Wednesdays at the land farm from 8:30 to 12:30. We have volunteer days at the Sky Farm on Fridays. We have farm school for our homeschooled kids. We have gathered table dinners. We have pizza nights that are going to be coming back this year. And then we'll also do private events. So there's a ton of different ways to get involved at Blackwood. And then we have the Sky Farm too, which has created another avenue for people to get connected with nature in a different way through our Sky Farm.
Oh, and isn't the Sky Farm that really cool roof that has all of those crops growing on top of it downtown?
Yeah, so it's at Post HTX. We have an acre farm on top of the roof there.
How cool. Very European, Houston. So can you walk us through what a typical day looks like for you as a farm manager?
Usually I'll start with a field walk, which is just walking through all of the fields that we have just to see like where things are, if anything crazy has happened, if there's like a problem spot that I knew I saw the day before or the week before, going back to that, making sure that whatever is progressing in the way that we want. And then usually I'll check Heirloom, which is our farm software. And that's where I do all my crop planning. It makes a task list for us so that we know exactly when we need to be starting certain seeds and different tasks need to be completed on certain days. And from there, we'll assess high-level needs and just kind of move forward from that point to see what's most important that day.
So what is an example of something that would be a high-level need? Let's just use an example of right now we're dealing with the end of this freeze. What would be a few high-level needs after something like this?
After a freeze, you kind of have to wait for things to thaw out and figure out what's actually sustained damage, what needs to be removed, what the next steps are. But going through to make sure if we have damage, that we're noting the damage that's happened from these freezes, and then making a plan for once we're through the freeze.
When temperature-wise do you find you can start to work on things that have been damaged?
Basically, once we're above freezing. So if I know nights are above freezing, most things can get uncovered in the fields. We've got frost cloth on a lot of stuff. We've hayed really heavily. So as soon as we're above freezing temps at night, I think we'll be okay to sort of start assessing where we need to go.
And what does the hay do?
It insulates. So one of the rows we were kind of experimenting with, it was a row of younger cabbage. Mm-hmm. And we hayed really heavily just over top of it instead of doing a frost cloth. Mm-hmm. And I got a video update on that, and they look like they did really well. And cabbage is pretty cold hardy anyway, but I was really impressed with how well the hay insulated it.
Cool. I think that's something some gardeners could try out too if they want to experiment a little bit. So what are the biggest challenges in managing a farm on a day-to-day basis, do you think?
I think the weather is probably the biggest challenge because it's so unpredictable. I used to work on a different farm, and he would always say farming is the biggest gamble that you can take. You hope Mother Nature will be on your side, but that's not always the case, and you have to adapt. And you also have to work within the bounds of what's happening during that season. Like, you have to understand that temps might drop to 20, and growing the right things at the right time is super important to make sure that you sustain the crop production that you need to be successful.
So what are some of the systems or routines that help keep the farm running smoothly for you guys?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit earlier about Heirloom, which is the farming software that we use. That is the biggest thing for me right now that keeps us on track and helps us know what we're looking ahead to, what we need to focus on that day, that week, that month. So I think that is one of our biggest tools, biggest assets. And then the other thing is good working relationships. It's just two of us on the farm, me and Brian, and we work really well together. So that type of relationship is how we really ensure success, is because we know what each other is responsible for without even having to check in. So we move ahead really quickly, and we can keep going without being like, oh, are you okay doing this? Can you handle this? We both know what we're responsible for, and we work really well together to make it happen.
Oh, yeah. I think teamwork can really make or break any kind of business, truly. I heard you guys just got a certification, and that's really cool. And I want to hear, what is the certification you just got on the farm?
We just got Regenified. So basically, Regenified is like regenerative certified, slammed into one word, Regenified. So yeah, we're really excited about it. We started the process with them in 2024. And our first assessment with them, they came back and gave us a tier 1 status. And so the tiers range from tier 1 to tier 5, 1 being low, 5 being high. So our first check-in, which was in 24, we came in at a tier 1. And this past year, they came back and we came in at a tier 4. So we had a pretty big jump, which is super exciting.
That's really exciting. And what inspired you guys to pursue that certification?
We were doing some research on the organic certification versus a regenerative certification, and we decided to go regenerative, and specifically with Regenified, because after talking with some organic certifiers and working through all of the different pieces, we realized that Regenified really met us where we were. And they weren't just asking us for receipts or just verbal confirmation that we were doing the right thing. They came in and they tested our soil. They basically did a blood test on our soil and gave us all of these different things. And I think that is the biggest thing that pushed us towards them. Was it was data science based, and it wasn't just like, oh yeah, I'm not using chemicals, I promise. It was, we are actually going to see what's happening in your soil and make sure that you are moving towards a regenerative farm, not just saying, oh yeah, you're regenerative or you're organic. It felt more authentic to us.
And can you walk us through some of those changes that you guys made in order to increase the certification tier that you guys received?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us was soil disturbance. You get docked basically anytime that you disturb the soil. So tillage, using a harrow, or even mowing is a level of disturbance. And mowing is one thing that we haven't moved that far away from because it's a really good tool for us, but specifically tilling and harrowing. So that was the biggest thing. But then living roots in the soil, so making sure that there's always something growing. And soil armor, making sure that it's covered either with a living plant material or a mulch or a dead plant material. And then those are the things that we really made efforts on changing. And the other things that were important to them were diversity. So making sure that you're rotating your crops. And then also like wildlife diversity. They came in and they did like test to see how many different bird species were on site, and they dig up a square foot of soil to see how many organisms are in the soil.
Cool.
So that was cool, and that's something that we've always worked on. And then context. So making sure that you're aware of where you're growing and that you're growing the right things at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So those were things that we already were doing, but it was cool to be able to know that that's what's important for regenerative agriculture.
And can you explain the difference between regenerative and organic? I think a lot of people are a little confused, and everybody's kind of like, oh no, another rebrand, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I want to be really clear, like organic is great, regenerative is great too. It's not like one is better than the other. The difference is really sitting with what we just talked about: disturbance, living roots, soil armor. The organic certification itself does not really focus on protecting the soil from tillage or the harsh sun damage or that sun damaging the microbes and erosion from heavy rains, which is all really big realities for us here.
Mm-hmm.
We have incredible sun power and we have heavy rains. So making sure that you have living roots in the soil so that the water isn't rushing your really good soil away. You work really hard to create soil that's healthy and full of microbes and with mycelium, all of the fungal communities. You want to keep that and not let it run down the drain when we have a heavy rain. And yeah, some people are using regenerative as a marketing ploy, but I think there's still really strong aspects to regenerative agriculture. And sometimes I think regenerative is focusing on some things that organic doesn't focus on alone. And like I said, the reason we went with regenerative was because of the soil testing, because of the data behind it, and the organic certification didn't do that for us.
Good answer. So how do you guys manage pests and weeds without resorting to harmful chemicals on the farm?
Weeds were actually really welcoming because they protect the soil. They are a living root in the soil. I've really changed the way I view weeds. I think we're using them as an asset instead of this hindrance that's taking a lot of our time to spend cleaning out every single bed to make sure it's weed free. There are some that I will select that I don't want, right? Like nut sedge is a huge problem and we're always fighting it. Sow thistle is another one that I'll go through and select weed, but more than not, I'm leaving most of it, which has been an adjustment and it's a little bit messy looking, but my goal is to protect the soil, not have a really pretty looking area to farm in.
I think weeds can be a good indicator, too, of what's going on below the soil.
Definitely.
That a lot of people tend to ignore because of our stereotypical white picket fence, perfect looking lawn. So I think that's really good. It sounds like you guys are listening to the soil. And how do you manage pest problems?
Yeah, so thankfully we haven't had to deal with very many pests. I don't typically use any type of organic pesticide. I don't really like neem oil because it's still hurting those beneficial pollinators.
Mm-hmm.
We are trying to create a space that brings in beneficials to take care of the pests.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's like an integrated pest management type system. We just want to attract beneficials to do what nature does.
I love it. I think we all should do a little bit more of that. What do you wish more people understood about how their food is grown?
I wish they understood that it was grown.
Ooh, can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, I think we go to the grocery store and we see all of this stuff. And I don't think a lot of people think about, oh, that was grown in soil or that was grown, period. You know, we have kids on farm a lot. And a lot of times we have their parents on the farm too. And I think that's what's the most fun is because kids are adventurous. If I pull something out of the ground and I'm like, do you want to try this? 10 out of 10 times they are like, yeah, I want to try that. And it's their parents that are like, oh, you can't. That came out of the soil. That came out of the dirt. And it's like, that's where everything's coming from. So I think we just have to kind of remind ourselves that everything that we consume was grown at one point in time.
And we also need to remind ourselves it's not normal to say keep off the grass when things are sprayed, because for some reason everybody is under lawn psychosis that you just need everything to be perfectly matching, and that's just not the case. So what advice would you give someone who wants to start a farm, who wants to do it responsibly and intentionally?
Yeah, I think experiment. Try things that are outside of the norm, but also cooperate with nature. Mother Nature will humble you quickly. So be aware of what things are growing at certain times and adhere to that. You'll have a lot less disappointment that way. But I mean, do your research, listen to podcasts. There's so much information available online that we can really become experts in anything we want to if we really put our minds to it.
I love it. And my final question will be, what has working with Mother Nature this long taught you that is a skill that you could take outside of farming?
Ooh, I think just appreciating nature, appreciating what she has to offer. I think one of the best things about Blackwood is how gorgeous the land is. So just getting to go and hang out and be in nature all the time. Like, I'm very lucky to be able to go and appreciate nature and be in it every single day. But a lot of times we get into this routine of, oh my gosh, we just have to keep going. We just have to keep going. And you don't like stop to smell the flowers. And I think that's one thing that farming has really taught me, is to slow down a little bit and, just appreciating where we are. Appreciating the earth is so important.
Agreed. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Where can people find you online?
Blackwood's website is blackwoodland.org. We are on Facebook, Instagram. So please follow us. Come out, visit the farm. We'd love to have you.
We can buy your produce at Urban Harvest, and what was the other one?
Tomball Farmers Market. Coming soon.
Woohoo! Well, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.